read a verse here, Psalm 112, verse 5 and 6. Good will come to him who is generous and lends freely. I want good to come to me, so I'm going to lend freely. Who conducts his affairs with justice, surely he will never be shaken. A righteous man will be remembered forever. So we're talking about the legacy of all of our lives. And listen, it doesn't matter how good or bad you are. We all have some legacy things that maybe aren't perfect, but it's really about living a legacy that goes on into eternity by how we make a difference in the lives of others. And while we are human, there's going to be some things. For instance, I learned today part of my legacy is going to be wearing Mr. Rogers sweaters, okay? 3 people before church, y'all. 3 people that are supposed to love and care for me, and I have to come up 4 times and do something, and I don't have a change of clothes, and people mocking me and saying things like, hey, will you read me a story? It's not cool. It's not cool at all, okay? Or after church, someone coming and saying, hey, Pastor Brad, can I get a photo? I'm like, oh, yeah, great. My daughter's got the same sweater on. I wanted to get a photo of you guys together. So get it out, let's get it over with, and let's move on. My wife warned me about the sweater, but I just went for it, and so here we are. Okay. What we do for ourselves is going to die with us. What we do for ourselves is going to die with us, but what we do for others lives beyond us. So we want to live that legacy life starting today. We want to do things that are going to impact the people around us, our families, our friends, the people we work with. Let's leave a legacy that impacts people so that we can spend eternity in heaven together. Amen, somebody? Amen, somebody? Okay, there we are. Here's what God has done through us so far. So today I'm going to share some things with you. And again, it's going to feel a little different. It's not going to feel so much like a sermon as much as vision and sharing with you all that God has already done, as well as what we're believing God is going to do in 2019. It's amazing what He's already done, so I can't even imagine what next year is going to look like. But let me share a few stats with you. Number one, we started with a launch team of 153 people. Now, what's crazy about this is I remember my wife and I, before we met any of you, writing down names, trying to come up, okay, because we had to have 35 people in order to launch this church with the organization we launched with, which is called ARC. It's a church planting organization. 35 people is a lot of people when you really don't know anyone up here. And so I remember we're trying to think of names. Finally, we're like, let's just make up some names. Yeah, we got Michael Jordan. We got Justin Bieber. Like, whatever, just put some names on there. We need 35. And then we did our very first meeting at Onyx Coffee, and it was kind of an information night. We called it a startup party, sharing about SoCo. And just curious, how many in the room were there at that very first one? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. I see a few hands. Okay, awesome. Some long-timers. Y'all been on board a while. So we met that night, and y'all, we had 80 people the very first night. We had 115 in attendance. 80 people said that night that they wanted to join our team and help us plant a church. 80. We were just, how in the world are we ever going to get 35? And the very first night we had 80. We were planning to do 6 of those events. We ended up only being able to do 2 because we had so many people wanting to be a part of SoCo, which is still so humbling. So we had 153 that helped us launch on January 21st of this year. Our launch day attendance was 626 people in our very first service on January 21st. That is just mind-blowing. Let me tell you how mind-blowing that is. I had a friend who attends a church recently say, I don't know how in the world you had 626 people on your first day. Our church is 50 years old, and we've never had that many people. And this is not a knock against any other church. It's just a reminder of how amazing it is what God has done at SoCo. 626 people. So it didn't stop there. We didn't have 626 and then just die off. In fact, the average from day one to now, we've averaged 769 people every weekend. But look at this growth trend. Starting in January, averaged 544, then we grew, then I offended people, then I didn't wear a sweater in April at all, and people came back. And actually, that was Easter, so our growth went up. And then we grew overall. May, we grew. June, we grew. July, and it's just amazing. In the last 6 weeks, over 6 weeks, since September, we've averaged well over 1,000 people every Sunday at SoCo. Let me tell you how crazy that is. Let me just put that into perspective for you, because you guys probably aren't really researching churches all over the nation. There's a magazine called Outreach Magazine that comes out every year, and they do something called church growth something. Anyway, they take the fastest growing churches in the U.S., and they basically compile a list of all the churches. We weren't able to apply because we're a church plant, so they don't let church plants apply. But if we were in there, percentage-wise, so maybe not total number, but percentage-wise of growth, we would have been the fastest growing church in the United States, just based on how quickly we've gone from nothing to over 1,000 people. And that's nationwide, y'all. Right here in Bentonville. Isn't that crazy? The crazy thing is that God chose us. Go ahead and point at yourself and say, God chose me. I mean, some of you, that's a little weird, like it is for me. It's weird for me to say, God chose me, knowing my life. But God chose us, and collectively, this is what God is doing through us as a church family. Isn't that amazing? Let's talk about some other numbers. Based on our growth trend, we saw 76 people baptized this year. 76 people have been water baptized. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And here is the one that just blows my mind. At the end of every service, since January 21st, we give people an opportunity to put their faith in Christ, to give their life to Him. And in 10 and a half months, we've seen 521 people saved through SoCo Church. If that's not worth making some noise for, I don't know what is. Come on. All 521 of them probably don't still attend SoCo. All 521 of them may not still be living a life for God. I don't know, but here's what's amazing. Through you, we've planted seeds in the lives of people. And it may not happen today, but at some point, that seed may get in an environment where it gets to grow and where God does something spectacular in them because of us collectively coming together and saying, God, use us. Use me. Allow me to be a part of something that's bigger than myself. Allow me to be a part of something that one day there'll be hundreds of people in heaven with me because you allowed me to make a difference in the lives of others. That right there is a legacy life. Amen, somebody? That right there is what legacy is all about. Let me share a couple other things, then we'll talk about next year. Missions. We've given away over $63,000 in 10 and a half months to serve people in need. We've given money to church planners. We've given money to international and national missions and local missions right here at home to bless and help people that are in need. And we try every week to let you know where your money is going, the money that you give back to God and allow the church to bless others. We try to share that as often as possible. That happens because of your generosity. That happens because of you. $63,000 in our very first year. We sponsored 75 children through One Child Matters, and we're giving some kids in a place that, listen, you can't even begin to comprehend the environment that they live in. And because we chose to sponsor 75 kids, our goal was 70. We ended up, actually, I think we may have sponsored more than 75 now. And if you want to sponsor a child, you still can. But these kids now have food, they have medical attention, they get education, and they get to know about Jesus because of your generosity. And who knows what may come out of these kids? Who knows what God may do in the lives of some of these children? They could be the next missionary that changes everything because of you. So thank you for your generosity through these kids. Let's talk about next generation. On average, 140 children are in our kids' care every Sunday. 140 kids that get to hear about Jesus, that we're singing songs with them. We're talking about Bible stories with them. We're creating an environment where they're having their own little church together with their friends. And I love when my son, man, he starts singing songs in the car about Jesus. He tries to tell us the stories. You know, he tries to tell us about the ark. And sometimes, you know, on the ark, there may be like PJ Masks on there or something. But that's okay. That's okay. There may be some dinosaurs that were on the ark. I don't know. But, I mean, he's learning, and I love that. Listen, we've got to invest in the next generation, amen? We've got to pour into them. And so 140 children are getting to hear the good news of Jesus every week, and I love that. We've had 2 youth nights here, big nights we did right here in Record, and on average, we've had 170 people in attendance in those nights. Students coming together, worshiping together, giving their lives to Jesus, and Dupree and Lindsay do an incredible job as our youth pastors. They also do crews every Sunday night where they're meeting in homes and doing small groups, doing life together and teaching and loving on them. If you don't know, my wife and I, we have a huge heart for the next generation. We believe so much that, listen, the next generation is going to make or break the world we live in, and I choose to be a part of helping them be the very best they can be. Amen? You guys with me on that? Let's believe, let's pour in to that next generation with all that we have. I also want to tell you that we've actually been able to expand a little. We needed office space, and this was one of the greatest headaches of my life, finding office space. We have prayed, we have looked, we had one opportunity, and God shut the door, and we finally found a home. Before this, we were kind of meeting at Onyx and out of our house, and we thank the Lord we now can park 1 car in our 2-car garage because we got stuff out of there, and so we actually have a home again, but we needed office space for our team, and we needed some really specific things, and we wanted it to be close, and downtown things are expensive, but we found some. God opened a door, and take a look at a few of these photos. This is our office space, y'all. Is that not beautiful? Yeah, take a look. Check out this. We got a couple more photos here. I think we have one more. And this is where our team works out of. Now, there's not pictures of it, but there's also an area that's just for storage. So we have a big area that we're able to put all stuff in. We're portable, so we need storage space. We also have a room that's a classroom. And we did our financial peace class there. There's a men's Bible study that's meeting there. But next semester, we're going to do some big things with that space. We also park our trailers right there. And it's right down the road. So I'm just telling you, God gave us the absolute perfect building. It's super ugly from the outside, and that's how we got it cheap, y'all. But we went in, and we did some painting, and we made it look amazing. And so we're just so excited about our new office space. Okay. Now let me tell you about 2019. Again, today is a little bit different, but I just need you to get on board with me. I need you to have a heart for this church the way that we do. If we all own it together, there's no telling what he'll do next year, right? So in 2019, I want to share some things that God, I believe, is calling us to do, and I believe he wants to do not just this through me, not just through our team, but all of us. All of us collectively play a role. First, I want to talk about expansion. This is probably the most difficult thing in my life right now, is thinking about the fact that we are out of space. 4 services is a temporary thing. We can't do it forever. It's taxing, it's difficult, it's hard. But as you can look around this room and see, there's room for maybe 10 or 15 open chairs all through the building. And that's normally the case in this service. Actually, it's a little light today. Normally, every chair is taken up, and they're putting more chairs out. Our next service, the 11:30, it fills up. Our first service, 8:45. Today, even though it was freezing cold, it was pretty full. Our 1 o'clock, it's got some room. We'd love for you to come to it, by the way, so just throw that out there. But here's the thing. In the South specifically, but nationwide, statistically, people want to go to church between 9 and 11. 9-11, that's the sweet spot. That is why everyone is here in this service. It's convenient. It's a good time to go. It feels like the right time if you have kids and on and on. So here's what we know. If your church capacity in any area is 70% or more, you don't grow anymore. So we statistically cannot reach more people until we have more space. Here's why. How many of you had a hard time finding parking when you got here today? Right? It's because you were late. Show up on time. Just kidding. Just kidding. So 70% parking. If we're at 70%, listen, we were at 70% day one because technically we don't have any parking, y'all. We have no parking. It's all public parking. And we share it with everyone else. And so there are times like right now when there's multiple churches having church, and it's hard to find parking. Sometimes you have to go park in the parking deck. And if you're a family with kids, it's who wants to walk in the cold? And then if you try to check your kids in, there's lines. And so when you get so full, it becomes more inconvenient and people don't have a great experience. So we have to do something about that. I am not willing to say, okay, y'all, we're averaging 1,000 people, we're good, let's just stay where we're at. No, 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 no. There are so many stories that are waiting to be written all over Northwest Arkansas, but we've got to do something to make some room. Amen, somebody? So that being said, here's what we need from you. I need your help. First of all, we need you to help us with prayer, but also, we don't really have any answers yet on what to do. There's only so many things we can do. The high school would be a great option, but it's almost impossible, probably is impossible, unless you have the right connection maybe. I don't know. Well, we have God. He's a pretty good connection. There's some new venues and schools being built around downtown. There might be some possibility for a bigger space there eventually, but we don't really have an answer. There are some possible options, but God's going to have to open some doors. I actually drove around the other night by myself and just drove around to a few different buildings that might work. And then I started looking at their parking, and they only had like 50 parking spots. I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So it's a really stressful place to be when God continues to send us people, and we don't have the room for everyone. I can't wait till we can go back to 2 services, we can pack it out, and we can all be together, and God's going to do big things, but we've got to figure out something for space. So I need your prayer. I need your help. If you have a connection, you know something, please talk to me. So one of our options, obviously, is a new location. The other option, a more short-term option, is a second campus. So a second location. A lot of you come from Rogers, so maybe starting something in the Rogers area, maybe Bella Vista. We're going to be multi-campus anyway, and the way we'll do that is a little different than other churches because it'll just feel like church. I know a lot of churches that do multi-campus, you know if you're not at the main location. The way we want to do it is every location is the main location. And so you're not going to feel like, well, we're having to go to the second campus. That's not our goal. We want to make it an amazing experience. So we're looking at some options. Same kind of problem, though, in Rogers and those areas. It's hard to find a venue. We are so blessed with this venue, y'all. This is an unbelievable space. But we're having to believe for God to open a door for us for our next home as He continues to do things in our lives. So would you guys just pray and connect with me? If you have some connections on that, just kind of nod your head if you'll do that. Okay. Awesome, awesome. Let's talk about our next generation and what we want to do in 2019. We're big believers, again, in next gen. Let me tell you about my life. So around 18 to 25, I had a real hard time. I knew God wanted to do something in my life. And I don't know what your background is. For me, I was in a church that we literally had some amazing men pray over my life and prophesy over my life. And all of these men were strangers to each other, strangers to me for the most part. And they would come to our church, and they would all say the same prophecy over my life. And I'm not telling you that. Maybe you think that's weird or something. It wasn't like a weird thing. It was a really cool thing. And it was God using someone to try to speak into my heart. And I knew God wanted to do something in my life, but I allowed the enemy to disqualify me every day of my life. And I needed a place, I needed a people, I needed a mentorship, I needed something in my life to help me achieve the promise that God put in my heart. And so for years of my life, I never had that. And I just decided a long time ago, I want to create that for the next generation. So we're going to be launching something called the SoCo Leadership Academy, all right? The SoCo Leadership Academy. And this is going to be a place where people, young people and old people, it's not just for young people, can grow in 2 ways. One, leadership, how to be a better leader, how to lead people, how to lead yourself, how to lead in your workplace. The second part is the Bible, learning about the Bible. How does the Bible apply to my life? How does the Bible apply to this day today? And some of that's going to be basic information. Listen to me. There are many Christians in the world, and maybe some of us in the room today, maybe we grew up even in church, and we still don't understand some basics of the Bible. So we're going to teach people so that when you encounter someone and they say, hey, yeah, I'm interested in a Bible study, you don't freak out. You're like, okay, I got this. So we're creating the SoCo Leadership Academy, and I believe, listen to me, I believe God is going to take some people out of this Leadership Academy, and there are going to be church planners that come out of this. There's going to be pastors that come out of this. There's going to be worship pastors. There's going to be kids pastors. There's going to be people that just go lead on a whole new level in their workplace. There's going to be missionaries going all over the world to tell people about Jesus. Come on, does anybody believe with me that there are talented people in the room today that just need a place to grow and to be mentored and to be led so that they can go fulfill all that God is calling in their life? Do you believe that with me today? So I'm so excited about that. That's going to be actually launching in February, our very first semester, and it's going to be one night a week. Listen, it's going to be awesome. And so if you are interested in this, I'm telling you, you need to get signed up. We have a space now, a classroom that's just for this. And here's what's going to happen. Over the years, this is going to grow into an accredited program where we're actually allowing people to get their degree through this program, and big things are going to come out of this. I'm really believing that. So I'm so excited, and we all get to be a part of that. In missions, let me share with you in 2019, we're going to continue to develop relationships with organizations right here in Northwest Arkansas. The foster program needs us. They need a church that's just going to go all in on it. And so how do we go all in? Well, I'll tell you a few ways. One is like today. You guys brought toys and gift cards and things like that, and we're going to help the kids that are going to go without, that are in this shelter this Christmas. So thank you for your generosity there. Some of you, I believe God has put it on your heart maybe to foster or adopt one day. We're going to create a way for you to find more information for that in 2019, where if that is something God is calling you to do, I'll be honest, I grew up around some people that didn't do it well, so I've had a real bad experience with that. I had some foster parents that I don't know why they did it, but I watched them bring kids in, and as soon as that kid did one little thing, they sent them off. And I just saw such a bad example of it. But then I see people like the Wood family here that just kill it with foster kids. Yeah, man, they're the most selfless people. I mean, bringing in brand new babies into their life. I mean, they just make me feel like I can do so much more. And I'm so blessed by that family. And we're learning from them. And we want to do our best. I don't know that there's a more Christ-like thing you could do, because he adopts us into his family. How powerful is it when someone adopts a child into their family, into their hearts? And my wife and I, we feel called to do that eventually. We're praying about that right now. And I'm telling you, there are kids right now in Northwest Arkansas that need us. And so we're going to do our very best in 2019 to bless them, to love them. And listen, even if you're not called to foster or adopt a kid, we're all called to love those kids. The Bible talks specifically about the orphans in our community and how it's the church's job to care for them. The state's trying to do it, and they're doing the best they can, but let's be the church. Let's do what the church is supposed to do. Let's be the church. Amen. Amen. So we want to continue, and we're also, last thing in missions, we're going to continue to support church planners, because this can happen all over the U.S. It is happening. Did you know that more churches are closing their doors every week than churches are being started? Churches every week at record numbers are closing the doors of their building. And church plants create a new, fresh way for people to know Jesus. Listen, the gospel doesn't change. We just change the packaging a little bit, right? SoCo is nothing like the church I grew up in, but the truth is still the truth. We still present the truth. We just do it in a little bit different way, amen? And so there's going to be church plants all over the U.S., and we get to play a part in helping them plant their churches. So thank you for your generosity and being a part of that. I want to close with this. I want to remind you this, that none of us are as good as all of us. When we come together, listen, as a church, while we may average 1,000 people on the weekend, if we all, 1,000, come together, there is no telling what we may see God do in 2019. If we get our minds on Him, we get our hearts on the mission of the church. And so I thank you for that. And I want to share 3 quick things that we would love to have you partner with us on for the next year, and really as long as you're a part of our family. So a legacy life. What can we do to start today? Number 1 is we need your prayer. And I'm not talking like someone posts something on Facebook and you put the emoji of the prayer hands and like, praying for you. I'm talking like you are praying for for SoCo. I'm talking you put a reminder in your phone that every day you're telling Siri, remind me every morning to pray for SoCo. I'm talking you're writing it on your mirror, your refrigerator, you're putting it in your car, whatever you need to do. But if this is your home, pray for this church. Pray for us. Pray for your leadership. You know, the enemy, he's going to come against all of us, but if he can come mess me up, if he can destroy your trust in me, he's going to do it. So we need your prayer. A church growing the way we're growing, you can guarantee the enemy's taking notice. So we need your prayer. We need you to partner with us there. Matthew 9, verse 37, Jesus says to the disciples, the harvest is plentiful. Meaning there's lots of people that are ready and waiting to hear the message of Jesus. But the workers are few. So we've got to ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field. Listen, we need to be praying together for God to send us, to lead us, to direct us. Whatever the next step is for us to expand, whatever the next step is for us in 2019 to partner with local missions, we need you to pray that God will give us discernment on what the next step should be. Can you guys do that for us? How about the other 300? Can you 300 do it too? Thank you. Pray. Number 2 is something you already do, and that's just continue to give. Give of your time, your talent, your treasure. Proverbs 3:27, don't withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. And we don't do that. I love that. If you can help your neighbor now, don't say come back tomorrow and then I'll help you. Let's decide today to be that generous church. If this is your church home, let me encourage you in this. If this is your church home, I would love for you to tithe here at SoCo and allow us to do more. God doesn't need your money, and honestly, if you decide not to, God will provide whatever we need. But I believe it's in the house what we need to go to the next step. And listen, tithing is such an amazing thing because it's equal sacrifice. It's a different amount for all of us, but it's equal sacrifice. And I love tithing because it's better to give than to receive. Amen. We all know that. I would any day rather watch my son open a Christmas gift than me open a Christmas gift, okay? I love watching him open. I love giving him things. And listen, it's better to give than to receive. So you get to see next year all of these numbers again. And next year you get to say, man, I played a huge role in that. The second part of tithing is not only does it bless the local church, you now enable God to have your heart and allow Him to do something in your life that otherwise He may not have been doing. I shared the story of our church planner friend last week, and he shared how he gave a car away, and then he was able to get a key from a bank that they were a part of, and he got in this Camaro and started it up, and God gave him a Camaro. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, if you start tithing, you may not get a Camaro, okay? I wish I could tell you that, but I'm just going to be honest. It may not be a Camaro, but God may open a door for your family. He may break a generational curse. He's going to do something amazing when you give your heart to Him. Amen, somebody? I believe that. I believe that. God wants to leave a legacy through you. And by helping us achieve the mission and vision of SoCo, I'm telling you, there's no telling what will happen. Number 3 is this as I close. Third thing is we just simply need you to go. To go. Not right now. Don't leave right now. Romans 10:15. How can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but just for a moment, I'm curious how many in the room, you're here today because someone brought the good news to you. Your life has been impacted and changed forever. Maybe your whole family, maybe generations of change because someone presented the good news of Jesus Christ to you. We need to be a church that we don't just take that and say, that's great, this is my church, we're good with where we are. It's now our turn to go present the gospel to other people. It's our turn to go. What is God calling you to do? Every Sunday we do our best to prepare you and speak to you and make sure that you're ready to go to go. If we take what we hear every Sunday and that's all we do is just listen to it, it's application so we can go through the week and begin to do exactly what God has called us to do. How beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. Be intentional about telling people about Jesus. Be intentional. We have to live an intentional life. Be intentional by leading a group this next semester and inviting people. Maybe you have friends that would come to a running group with you that won't come to church with you. Well, you get them around some good people, they might decide, hey, I'll give church a try after all. Maybe there's people right here in this church that need a mentorship in their life. And by you leading a group, you're opening doors for life change to happen. And I have to say, if you haven't gone to Next, listen, go today. Go learn more about who we are and how you can play a part. It's happening right after the service at Meteor Gallery. We'll have a team out there to walk you over, check your kids in. We'll take care of them. Go to Next and learn more. Take your next step. If there's anything I could encourage you in today, it's to take a next step. Take a next step, and you can do that today at 11:15, right after this service. As our worship band comes, we're going to sing a song as we give our legacy offering today, and we're going to pray in just a moment. But I believe that big things are in store. But I want you to hear this. We're never going to be a church that has more money than vision. I can tell you that right now. I am not a guy that dreams small. I'm not a pastor that wants to teach you guys, hey, whatever you're dreaming, that's enough, okay? I want to always encourage you to dream bigger. The Bible says you have not because you ask not. I'm telling you, we serve a God that one day I believe many Christians are going to get to heaven, and God's going to say, you know, if you would have just dreamed a little bigger, this is what I would have done in your life. Let's just start dreaming bigger right now. And I'm dreaming big. We're never, ever, I'm telling you, we're never going to have a bunch of money in the bank, and I'm thinking, well, I wish we had something else we wanted to do. No, this world has way too many problems, way too many lost people, way too many kids in foster care, way too many people that are hungry for us to just settle. Are you guys with me? So today what we're going to do is we're going to take up our legacy offering that we've been praying about as we sing this song. And if you are giving to that today, and if you can't today, but you want to later in the week or in the month, that's fine as well. But today, if you are giving to our legacy, I want to show you a couple of ways to make sure that you notate it is specifically for legacy and it's not your normal tithe and offering. So if you're giving for check or cash, make sure you use the envelope and put Legacy 2018 on it. If you're giving online, make sure to select the Legacy 2018 option from the drop-down menu. And you can also text, and you just need to put any dollar amount followed by the word legacy to that phone number right there, and it'll give you instructions on how to do that. And we're going to give. It's going to take some faith for us to get to where I believe God is calling us next year. And I really believe that we have a church full of people that are full of faith. How can you not be full of faith seeing the numbers that we shared that God has just blown our minds with in 2018? Amen. Does that increase anyone's faith in the room today to see that? I know it's kind of been a slap in the face to me, really my own hand slapping my own face, thinking, how did I ever doubt God? Can I just be honest and let you know that I spent months and months before we launched thinking worst case scenario? You can ask my wife. I would stay up late at night running the numbers in my head thinking, how can we live if this church dies? I'd already told some people, if this church doesn't work out, I think I'm going to be done with ministry because it'll just hurt so much. What was I doing? I was dreaming about that big. And God has taught me something in the last year. Dream bigger. Believe bigger. So we're going to do that, and listen, I need you to get on board because I'm telling you what you're a part of here is something bigger than all of us, something that's allowing us collectively to leave a legacy that's going to live on in heaven because of the difference you're making. Yeah. Can I get one amen in the room if you believe that? Faith is the substance of things hoped for. We have to see it before we achieve it. We already have to see our next space. We already have to see our next campus well before we have the people, the money, the resources, or anything. But guess what we do have? We have the God that'll make it happen. And so that's what we're believing